friends, my name is Jess. Welcome to Books Past Bedtime. So today we are going to be doing a very exciting video. I'm excited for it. I don't know if you are. In this video, I am going to read 5 different female romances / Sapphic contemporaries. I don't really know if all of these are romances, but they all have gay girl main characters, which we love. Let me just go ahead and tell you what we'll be reading this week. So the first book is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. This book follows Cameron Post, whose parents have just recently died in a car accident, and she is filled with a mix of grief and relief. Relief because she'll never have to tell them that she is gay. When this happens, Cameron is sent to live with her old-fashioned grandmother and aunt, but they end up sending Cameron to a religious conversion camp when they find out that she is gay. This was one of the first female books that I ever came across. I remember seeing it in the library growing up, but I never picked it up for some reason. So in my head, it seems to be one of the classics of the genre, and I didn't feel like this video would be complete without it. This week, I'm also going to be reading You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book follows our main character Liz, who is determined to get out of her hometown, but she doesn't end up getting the scholarship to college that she needs. So instead, she decides to campaign for prom queen because at Liz's school, prom queen comes along with a scholarship. But then she meets Mac, who is another girl running for prom queen, and Liz starts to fall for her. And in her conservative town, this isn't really good for her image, so she kind of has to decide what is more important to her. This book sounds so good. I am so excited to get to this one. Can't wait. This week, I'm also planning to read Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a book written in verse, and it follows these 2 sisters. One lives in the Dominican Republic, and the other lives in New York. They don't even know about each other until their father tragically dies in a plane crash. I believe one of the sisters is queer. I don't really know how much romance is in this, but I have heard that this book is sapphic and queer, so that is why it's in this video, and also I just really want to read it, so I also am planning to read Late to the Party by Kelly Quindlin. This was one of my most anticipated releases of 2020, and I'm so excited to get to it. This follows Cody, who is an introverted 17-year-old girl who has never been kissed. Her and her best friends are very much the kind of people who like to stay in their comfort zone, but this summer her best friends start pushing to kind of live their lives more. They end up going to this party where Cody actually stumbles on this popular boy Ricky kissing another boy in the dark. He swears her to secrecy, and they spark up an unlikely friendship. Ricky kind of takes Cody on the summer of her life, introduces her to this girl named Lydia. This book sounds so fun, so summery, so cute. Very excited to get to this one. Sounds right up my alley. And finally, I am planning to read The Love and Lies by Rukhsana Ali by Sabine Khan. I've heard this is another heavier one. It follows Rukhsana, who tries her hardest to live up to her conservative Muslim parents' expectations, but when her parents catch her kissing her girlfriend, they actually decide to send her to Bangladesh into a world of arranged marriages and tradition, and she has to figure out if she can fight for her life and who she loves without losing everything else in her life. From reading a couple reviews, I think that this is more focused on family and finding yourself than romance, but it still does have that sapphic queer element. And I also don't read a lot of books with Muslim main characters, so I thought that this one would be a good inclusion. I'm very excited to get to it. This one has actually been on my TBR forever. I don't know why it's taken me so long to pick it up, but I am excited to get to all of these this week, and we are just gonna have a fun queer week of reading, and I am so pumped. I think if I was any more excited, I would probably explode. So I have now started You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I am now 50% of the way through. Just as a refresher, this book is following our main character named Liz, who really wants to get out of her hometown, and she really wants to go to this college for music, but unfortunately this college denies her the scholarship that she needs to go there. So she decides to run for prom queen at her school, and if she wins prom queen, she will get a scholarship to college, making going there possible for her. And while she is running, she meets this new girl named Mac, who she starts to develop feelings for. She also has this great group of girlfriends around her that are very supportive of her. There is starting to be some kind of discussions of microaggressions even between Liz and her friends, which I think is interesting. We haven't really dove deep into that yet. I definitely think there's a discussion to be had there, and I hope that this book does end up going there. More importantly, this book really isn't about racism. This is just a book about a Black main character living her life, and I think that's really great and definitely something that is needed. This is definitely a very fun read. It's on the lighter side. It's pretty classic YA contemporary stuff. I definitely love the elements of queerness in this book. I think it's everything's being handled really well. There's discussions of being accepting of oneself, but not being ready to come out. There's also Mac is like out and proud. There's lots of different dynamics going on there. I definitely am enjoying my reading experience. There are a few things that are starting to bother me. I think it's because this book is definitely a YA contemporary, maybe even a little bit younger YA contemporary, which obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but at 22, I'm not necessarily a target audience for that anymore. Some of these things that are annoying me, it's just kind of a little bit repetitive. Liz goes to a community service event for this prom queen thing. She talks to her friends about where she is in the running, and she has a scene with Mac, and then it's like she has a scene with Jordan, and then rinse and repeat. It's just like the same thing over and over again so far. This is a really short book, so it's not that big of an issue, but I do hope that some more stuff happens in the second half of this book and it starts to pick up a little bit. Another thing that's kind of bothered me, this is pretty small, but there are a lot of like pop culture references in this book, and I personally don't like pop culture references in my book unless they are done like really well, especially if they're like trying to be modern, because I just think it instantly dates the book and it kind of takes you out of the story almost. I just don't love that aspect of the book, and it's not really like once or twice, it's like a one reference every chapter kind of thing, so that's bothering me a little bit. But overall, I am really enjoying this book. Right now it's hovering somewhere between a 3 and a 4 for me. I think the second half will really be the determining factor on where it falls within that range. I don't know, maybe something crazy will happen and this will end up being a 5-star for me. It is yet to be seen, but so far I am really enjoying it and can't wait to finish it up.
A few moments later.
So I finished You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, and I really loved this book. I thought it was so good. It's such a sweet story with such a positive, happy message, and I just basically really enjoyed reading it. So overall, there were a few things that did end up annoying me. There was quite a bit of miscommunication, especially in the relationship between Liz and Mac, which got on my nerves. I always don't like miscommunication. I am always sitting there being like, just tell them the truth and it'll be alright. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? And like I briefly discussed in the previous clip, I did think that this was definitely aimed at a younger audience, and the reason I say that is because they did kind of go surface level on some deeper topics. It almost felt like the author was afraid to go there, didn't want to turn away her audience. This could be a great way to introduce a younger audience to topics such as sexuality and race and how people perceive them and react to them, but it just lacked a little something for me, and I felt like I was craving the story to actually go there and push the envelope a little bit more than it did. But despite those couple criticisms, I did really enjoy this book. I think that I am going to go with a 3.5 star for me. I don't know if it was quite at the level of a 4, just for those reasons. Even though I did end up really enjoying it, this definitely is a very happy story with a very positive message, which I really appreciate. I also really did love Mac and Liz's relationship. I definitely think it was a very good portrayal of a high school style first serious relationship kind of deal. I really appreciated their interactions and how they spoke to one another, and I definitely appreciated the way that the lessons that Liz learned throughout this story, how to communicate with the person that you're interested in, how to treat them with respect, how to respect your own personal boundaries but also be aware of theirs and how they feel about things and how they look at things. I just think it was a very healthy and teachable relationship to read about, and I really appreciated that. I thought they were really cute together and the ending was super sweet. I am very glad that in the end they had adults stand up for them, because I feel like so often in these YA books it's like all the adults are against the kids, which is really disheartening to see, and I know that that's the reality in a lot of situations, but I just really appreciated in this book that they actually had a teacher that listened to them, saw what was happening to them, and stood up for them, and I thought that was awesome. So as I said, I do think that I would give this a 3.5. Probably will give it rounded up to a 4 on Goodreads. It was very good. I did really enjoy it. I am very happy to have read it. Okay, I just finished Late to the Party by Kelly Quindlin, and I really enjoyed this one. I feel like I don't have a ton to say because this was such a super simple story. This is a book that I needed in high school. I just related to Cody so much. She is like a very shy, introverted girl who doesn't mind being shy and introverted, but at the same time is constantly worried like what other people think of her being shy and introverted and not going out and doing all the things that her peers are supposedly doing. I just felt very seen by this book, basically. I also thought that this book was very honest. I really liked how it ended. It wrapped up nicely, but at the same time it was kind of open-ended in that like this was a high school relationship. These are high school friends. You might grow apart in the future or you might not. You might break up in the future or you might not. It kind of like made that point, which I appreciated, because sometimes in these contemporary stories set in high school they're like, oh, they live happily ever after for the rest of their life, and that's honestly not very realistic. Like, this is usually somebody's first serious relationship, and while that can be very exciting and it can last. It's not super likely to last. So for that reason, I was very happy with the ending and thought it was very well done. I also really liked the discussions of friendship in this book and how you can kind of grow apart from your friends, but at the same time still want them in your life, and your relationships with them can evolve and you can figure out how to grow together if those friendships are really meaningful to you and you want to keep them in your life. It's okay to go the separate ways and come back together, or not come back together, come back later down the road. There's so many different avenues that friendships can take, and I think this book did a good job of showing that, normalizing that, making sure that the reader knew that like that was a thing that was okay. I really appreciated that. I just think that this book was very honest and very much captured what it feels like to be a teenager and what it feels like growing up at that age. Because of all this, I really loved this one a lot. It definitely is a short and simple story, but I think for what it was trying to do, it succeeded very well, and I think I'm going to settle on a 4.5 for this one. I really liked it. It didn't pack quite the emotional punch that I need to give a book like this 5 stars, but it was very, very close, and I really, really enjoyed it. Also, the relationship in this was so super cute, especially like the date they went on in the treehouse. Butterflies in my stomach, my heart was racing. It was so cute. Oh my gosh. I really like Cody and Lydia together. I thought they worked very well together. I thought Lydia really helped Cody grow into her own and become more confident, and I appreciated seeing that, and I just thought it was a really sweet romance and really well done, very cute. I am also now halfway through Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Just as a little refresher, this book is about 2 sisters who had no idea the other exists until a plane carrying their father crashes and he dies. And amidst their grief, they learn of one another, and I think they will eventually connect and be there for each other. Anyway, so far, I really am enjoying this. I think this book is so beautiful. It is written in verse. This is actually the first Elizabeth Acevedo book that I have physically read. All of her previous books I've listened to on audio, so this is definitely a different reading experience, and although I really do love her audiobooks because she narrates them herself, I really am enjoying reading it physically and seeing the poetry on the page. It's just very beautiful, and it's so easy to read. I feel like sometimes when you're reading poetry, it can feel kind of clunky or like difficult to get through or not flow very well, but Elizabeth Acevedo does an amazing job. Her verse is so easy to read. It just flows so naturally and so beautifully, and it is just an amazing reading experience. I also am really enjoying both of the characters. We are following Camino, who lives in the Dominican Republic with her aunt, and her father used to come and visit her 3 months out of the year. Every summer he would come and stay with them for a while. And we are also following Yahaira, who lives in New York. Her dad lived with them full time. She actually found out about Camino before her father passed away, so she had been really resentful of her father and not really spoken to him for the past year. So this is doubly tragic when he does pass away, and she is dealing with her grief as well. So far this is a story about grief and discovering secrets about someone you love and how to deal with them not being the person that you thought that they were. There are themes of sexual harassment and sexual assault in both girls' lives as well. Yahaira was sexually assaulted, and Camino is being recruited to work for this pimp basically, and so that's definitely a big topic in this story. Both girls don't really have anyone there for them to listen to them except for their friends. Yahaira actually does have a girlfriend who lives next door to her who is really awesome and very supportive, so that's where the Sapphic element in this book lies, but this book really isn't about that at all. Although I do appreciate the way that Yahaira speaks about her sexuality. She doesn't feel the need to come out or put a label on things. She just says that the people who know her know, and that's enough for her, and I really respect that and really appreciate that. I feel like such an emphasis is put on people coming out and labeling themselves. I'm like personally against that. I think a label can feel very comforting for some people, but for me it feels very hindering. So I always appreciate seeing characters who are just themselves, and that's all. They don't feel the need to tell everyone or label themselves. I just think that personally for me, I appreciate that kind of representation. I am really enjoying this so far. I think this is going to be a 5-star book, and I cannot wait to finish it, and I will update you guys when I'm done.
One eternity later.
Okay, so here's the deal. I forgot to bid for Call Me Last for work, and we've like doubled our flights this month, so that means I've been working a lot. So I have gone from working like maybe 5 to 8 days a month to working Monday through Friday this past week, so I am like shook. I do not know what's going on. I had absolutely no time to film. I was working like 14-15 hour days. So you're gonna see me looking like this in a lot of clips, and you're not gonna say anything about it, all right? Okay, because I'm giving you content. You're welcome. I finished Clap When You Land quite a few days ago, but haven't had a chance to film an update. So I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Beautiful. A new favorite for sure. It is so good. I just can't get over how beautiful Elizabeth Acevedo's writing style is and how like clearly she's able to capture such intense emotions in so few words. It really just speaks volumes to how talented of an author she is. I just am so amazed. I really came to love both of these characters and really understand them and understand their thought processes and where they were coming from. I also really liked the storyline of Yaharia's mother, which definitely comes in more in the second half of the book. Obviously, Yaharia's mother is angry and upset and hurt by Camino's existence, and she's very resistant to letting Yaharia go to the Dominican Republic to attend her father's funeral and meet Camino, and she doesn't really want Camino in her own life because she represents her husband cheating on her and his flawed and incomplete love of her. So that dynamic is so interesting because you understand her point of view, but also following Camino, you've come to love Camino as well, and you understand that it's like not her fault at all. And it was just interesting to see the dynamic between them and how Yaharia's mother also came to understand and accept Camino and want to help her and see what her life was like. It was just a really interesting and unique aspect of the book that I thought was done really well. I think really exemplified what this book is about, and this book is definitely about family dynamics and how messy a family can be and how you can love and hate somebody at the same time. You can love them for who they were to you, but also hate them for the mistakes they made, and how you reconcile that once they are gone and not in your life anymore and you can't talk to them about it anymore. And I just really thought it was beautifully done. I loved it so much. The Sapphic element is definitely a side element. It never is a conflict. It's just the fact that Yaharia is in a relationship with another girl. Even though that wasn't the main focus of this book, I definitely think that this is an important book in terms of Sapphic representation because it's just normalized rep. It's just seeing two girls love each other on the outskirts of the book, not making that the conflict, not making that the main thing, and they seem to have a very healthy relationship and we're really there for each other and supportive of one another. I just think that kind of normalized rep is so important, and I really appreciated seeing that in this book, so I'm really glad I chose to include this book in this video, even though it's not necessarily a female-female romance, if that makes sense. So once again, can't say enough good things about this book. So good. For sure a 5-star. Okay, I also started The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali by Sabine Khan, and just a quick reminder, this book is about a Muslim girl whose family catches her kissing her girlfriend, and they are very conservative, traditional. I believe they're from Bangladesh. So when they catch Rukhsana kissing her girlfriend, they are absolutely appalled, very upset with her. They take her to Bangladesh to basically get her engaged to a nice Bangladeshi boy. It's a very serious, very terrible situation, honestly. This book definitely isn't necessarily female-female romance either. Honestly, the female-female relationship is a little bit toxic. Like, I'm not absolutely loving the relationship either, just because her girlfriend isn't very understanding of how dangerous it would be for Rukhsana to come out to her parents, and she, in the beginning of the book, is very much like pushing Rukhsana to come out to her parents and not liking that she has to be kept a secret, which I understand. It would be difficult to be in a secret relationship, and especially when you can't like hold hands in public or anything, like feel like your partner is ashamed of you. That definitely is a valid like feeling to have, to not love that situation. But at the same time, if you really love the person you're with, you've got to be kind of understanding, particularly when you're still in high school and they're promising you, like, when we go to college, this will be different, we'll be away from my family, we'll be able to be more open, it's just a year from now. If you really like love that person and are committed to them, I think that you should be a little bit more understanding, especially when coming out is literally dangerous for them. You should never push anybody to come out before they're ready, for period, but particularly not being understanding when the family situation is so volatile and dangerous. It just really rubs me the wrong way that her girlfriend wasn't more understanding, more willing to listen, more willing to be understanding and compromise. I'm kind of sad that that aspect isn't even done very well, but this book definitely is very intense, very much like trigger warnings for homophobia, honestly, like child abuse, for sure, like emotional and verbal abuse. This book is very much about Rukhsana's relationship with her family and her trying to figure out if she can be herself and still be a part of her family. It's very, very heavy topics, even though it's YA. It reads more like older YA, almost new adult, just because of how heavy the topics are. I definitely am really enjoying reading it. Really like learning about the Bangladeshi/Muslim culture. So I do appreciate that representation and think it's very interesting to learn about. It really is a shame how conservative her parents are and how unwilling they are to accept her. It definitely is very hard to read about, but so far, I think it's been done pretty well. I wish that the female-female relationship was a little bit more positive. We'll see kind of how that progresses and if that changes at all. Right now, I am 50% of the way into this, so I will definitely update you when I'm done. Right now, this could be like a 3-4 star book. It's not a 5 for me yet. Maybe like a 3.5 or a 4. I don't have any issues with it yet, aside from what I mentioned with the female-female relationship, but overall, I'm liking it, and we will see where it goes from here.
Much later.
I finished 11 Lives of Rukhsana Ali, and to be completely honest with you, I didn't love this book. I really liked learning about the Bengali culture, and I really liked Rukhsana as a character, but that's pretty much where my list of positives ends. I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the previous clip that Rukhsana experiences a lot of homophobia, much of it from her parents and from her family and culture, to the point where she is mentally, physically, and emotionally abused. She is drugged, she is given to an exorcist, locked in her room, her freedom's taken away, forced into a arranged marriage. Her parents just completely destroy her, utterly and completely, and they don't realize what they're doing to her until another boy who is gay is murdered for being gay. And then they realize what they're doing to her and vow to make up for their mistakes and try and be in her life and support her, which is all well and good, but I didn't enjoy that it took another gay person to die for her family to come to this realization that they shouldn't abuse their daughter. That's pretty shitty. And also, while I understand that this is a YA book and this is what YA books tend to do, everything in the end was wrapped up, tied off with a nice bow, everyone forgiven, everyone okay. And I think that the trauma that Rukhsana went through was way too severe for her to have forgiven her parents so easily. It just was really hard for me to understand. I understand wanting your parents to be in your life, but it just didn't feel realistic to me. If my parents had treated me like that, I would have struggled to forgive them for the rest of my life. To see her forgive her parents within the span of a couple of days for what would cause years of emotional trauma, those two aspects of the story were just not cohesive to me at all. It did not make sense how quickly she forgave them and how much of a happy ending this book gave off. It was not believable for me at all. And honestly, I kind of think that it's damaging to put out this perception that you should forgive your parents no matter what. Your parents are people too. They're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna have to reconcile that with whether or not you want a relationship with them. But the level of abuse and torture Rukhsana went through is unreal and, in my eyes, unforgivable. And I think if we tell these young LGBT kids that their parents can do things like them and still be deserving of forgiveness, I think it's damaging. And they also made another storyline where Rukhsana finds out that her mother was sexually abused by her own father as a child, which is absolutely horrible and I'm sure would cause some lasting trauma and some effects on perception, how she raised her own daughter, etc. But I don't like that as a plot device to excuse a character's terrible actions, especially towards their own child. I just couldn't get behind this book at all. I'm kind of oscillating between a 1 and a 2 star. I think I'm gonna go with a 2 star just because I don't think that this book is absolutely terrible. It does have some redeeming qualities, and I think that me as not an Own Voices reviewer can't just rip this book a new one and not make mention of that fact. But I will try to find some Own Voices reviews to link in the comments on all of these books actually, but this one in particular, there definitely are some cultural aspects that I probably didn't understand that I think are important to recognize, so I definitely am going to try to find some Own Voices reviews, and especially positive ones, and link them down below just to get a different opinion than mine, because mine isn't the end all be all, obviously. But that is that book, and now we will move on to our final pick, The Miseducation of Cameron Post. So I am a little over halfway through The Miseducation of Cameron Post, and I really am enjoying this story. There are a lot of reviews complaining about it being too long, and I can see that, especially because me personally, I always will complain about a book being too long if it's too long, but I think that it is right for this story. This story is really a character study of Cameron. It starts when she is 10 or so, 10 or 12, and I think it's progressing through high school at this point. Cameron has always kind of had an attraction to girls, and in the 1990s in rural, where are they? Montana? I don't remember. They're in rural Midwestern America. It is very frowned upon to have same-sex attraction, and Cameron is really experiencing that, particularly from all the kids around her. She is not out per se, but she has had a couple experiences with a couple different girls. Kind of culminates in this relationship with this girl named Coley, who has always thought she was straight, has this boyfriend, but her and Cameron grow really close and they start to kind of fool around and do stuff, and Coley ends up feeling very, very guilty about this and goes to her mother and kind of paints Cameron as this temptress that that tempted her into sin. Coley's mom tells Cameron's guardians, who are her aunt and her grandma, because her parents died when she was young at the beginning of this book. She gets sent to a gay conversion camp, a gay religious conversion camp, and that's where we are right now. Actually, that is all that's happened in the first chunk of this book. The first chunk of this book is really just establishing Cameron as a character, us getting to know her better, and I think it's really vitally important. I think the way the story is paced makes it feel like a slow, quiet story, but I really think it's going to be very powerful. I already feel very connected to Cameron. I feel like I understand her very well. I definitely think that what this book has done so far has been very good and successful. So right now she has just been given the brochure for this conversion camp and is about to be sent there, and I think she spends at least a year there, like a full school period there, and it's just so devastating because her parents, when they died, left her this money that she's supposed to use to be able to go to college, and her aunt has decided to use 10,000 of these dollars to send her to this conversion camp. It's just so devastating. Oh my god, I just can't even freaking imagine. Like, the fact that these things exist is so terrible. Fuck. Wow, I didn't expect to cry in this freaking update. Anyway, so basically what Cameron is going through right now is shit, and I can't even imagine. I really just cannot imagine. It's interesting because as a kid, I always saw this book in the library, and I like picked it up almost every time I went in the library, but I never checked it out. I think it scared me as a kid, you know? I didn't want to see myself in Cameron, even though I do. This is getting a little bit too personal. Alright, so anyway, I'm really enjoying this so far. I do expect it to be a 5-star. I also expect the second half to emotionally devastate me. So I guess we'll see. I'll update you when I'm finished. I don't know if this book will end on a positive note, but hopefully I will love it, so this video will end on a positive note, if that makes sense. I'm just rambling. I'm gonna go finish this book and I'll keep you posted.
1 week later.
So I have finished the Miseducation of Cameron post, and I absolutely loved this book. This is for sure a 5-star read for me. First of all, I really liked the writing style of this book. It is very straightforward. It is not super flowery. It's not super descriptive. It is very much just about Cameron's daily life, and that reflects in the writing, and I really enjoyed that aspect. I also really liked that this is kind of just a slice of life type of story. It takes place over a number of years, but it doesn't really have a clear start or a clear end. It's very much just like, this is what happened during these years of Cameron's life, and they were very significant and life-changing for her, so they are worth sharing, but there's no super wrapped up pretty conclusion with a bow at the end, and I think that was what made the story felt so real and so relatable. Cameron herself is such a sympathetic character. We really come to know her so well throughout the course of this story and really come to feel for her and want to protect her. What she goes through is so traumatic, and it's just so frustrating to see all the adults in her life not see the problem with sending her to a place like this. CPS or some kind of child protective services even comes at one point, and Cameron is trying to tell them, like, these people are emotionally abusing and manipulating us. This is not a safe place to be. There's a kid that he mutilated himself. I don't know that he was trying to kill himself or not, but some intense self-harm happened, and that's why these people come to investigate. And Cameron's like, look, he was driven to do this by what they do here at this place. He just like totally brushes it off and ignores her because they're not physically abusing them. It's just so frustrating and crazy because you know shit like this happens all the time. Like, these places exist here in America and in other first world countries, and it just is like so mind-boggling that they exist. I'm gonna put some links in the description, specifically a card down there where you can sign petitions to end conversion therapy, which is what Cameron goes to in this book. Definitely check those links out. Definitely sign those petitions. These things should not be happening in any iteration, any form. But back to the book, I did give this book 5 stars. I thought it was really amazing. This definitely is a very formative and shaping book, and I would recommend it to everybody. It definitely is not romance, but Cameron is an excellent Sapphic character, and you really learn a lot about conversion therapy and internalized homophobia as well as external homophobia. This is definitely, I think, a hallmark in Sapphic literature, and I think it's definitely a good one to pick up, and I would for sure recommend it. I loved this book. I love Cameron. This book will definitely stay with me for a very long time. There's a lot to think about in here, and I will keep thinking about it for a long time to come, I'm sure. So that concludes my reading vlog. Just to wrap up, I think my least favorite book that I read during this reading vlog was The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali. I gave this book 2 stars. The rest of the books are kind of hard to to put in order because I absolutely loved them all. I think I'm going to say tied for third is Late to the Party and You Should See Me in a Crown. I really loved both of these books. They are both fun, simple reads with some really great characters, some really relatable stuff in them, but they weren't 5-star reads, I think, because they were so simple. And then in second place, I think I'm going to put Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I really loved this book. This is a 5-star book for me. Because it was written in verse, I don't think it had quite the same emotional impact on me as The Miseducation of Cameron Post. I thought The Miseducation of Cameron Post was just such a good, well-rounded, rich story, and while the same can be said of Clap When You Land, I just felt a little bit more of emotional connection to The Miseducation of Cameron Post, probably because it was longer, I spent more time with it. So I think that is going to be my ranking for this video. I really loved all the books I read for this video. This video probably has the highest average rating of any of my reading vlogs, so that is really awesome. My boy Elvis is very afraid of this thunderstorm that's going on. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. All relevant links will be in the description down below, including some new social justice links to learn about what's going on in the world, as well as links to all of these books. So definitely check down in the description box. There's some good stuff down there. And thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.